From bitter celebrity feuds that lasted decades to a child star who turned down $2 million for future royalties, the short-lived sitcom Thea is packed with bizarre behind-the-scenes drama, unexpected wrestling appearances, and career-making decisions that still impact stars today, all crammed into just 19 episodes. Fact 1. Historic first but short-lived run. When Thea premiered on ABC on September 8, 1993, it made television history in a way that should have been celebrated for years to come. The sitcom, starring stand-up comedian Thea Vidal, became the very first time an African-American female comedian had a television series named after her, marking a groundbreaking moment for representation in network television. Vidal, who had built her reputation performing at comedy clubs across the country and appearing on shows like Late Night with David Letterman, finally had her own platform to showcase her talent and unique comedic voice. The show followed Thea Armstrong Terrell, a no-nonsense widowed mother of 4 children living in Houston, Texas, who juggled 2 demanding jobs to make ends meet, working as a supermarket cashier during the day and running a single-chair beauty salon called Styles by Thea from her home at night. The premiere attracted strong ratings, and critics praised the show's heart and the talented cast, with many believing Thea would become a staple of ABC's lineup for seasons to come. However, the celebration was remarkably short-lived, as the show's ratings began to steadily decline week after week throughout the fall and winter. Despite the historic significance of having the first African-American female comedian with her own named sitcom, and despite Vidal earning a People's Choice Award nomination for Favorite Female in a New Series, ABC made the decision to cancel Thea after airing only 19 episodes. The entire run lasted just 6 months, with the final episode airing on February 16, 1994, ending what should have been a landmark series before it ever had a real chance to find its audience and solidify its place in television history. Fact 2. The decades-long Brandy Vidal feud. Behind the scenes of Thea, a bitter conflict was brewing that would last for decades and eventually spill into public view in shocking fashion. Star Thea Vidal and 14-year-old Brandy Norwood, who played her daughter Danisha, clashed repeatedly during filming, with the tension becoming so severe that it affected the entire production. Vidal later revealed that Brandy, who was still a novice actress at the time, would frequently forget her lines, which frustrated the experienced comedian who was trying to maintain the show's quality and filming schedule. Making matters even more complicated, Brandy's mother and manager, Sonia Norwood, was also involved in the disputes, creating what Vidal described as constant disrespect on set. The situation became so difficult that rumors circulated about Vidal abusing her authority as the show's star, while others claimed that Sonia Norwood eventually pulled Brandy from the series to protect her daughter and focus on launching her music career instead. What makes this feud truly bizarre is that it never really ended, remaining dormant for over 25 years before exploding back into the public eye. In August of 2020, when R&B singers Brandy and Monica were preparing for their highly anticipated Versus battle, Vidal posted on Twitter that she was rooting for Monica, which immediately sparked controversy among Brandy's fans. When people questioned why she would publicly take sides against her former co-star, Vidal responded with a blunt statement saying she was tired of people coming at her sideways about Brandy, adding that she fundamentally disagreed with the disrespect she and her mother showed while working together on the sitcom. Brandy fired back during an interview with The Morning Hustle, saying that Vidal didn't treat her the way she deserved to be treated as a child, and suggested that Vidal was simply bitter because her own career hadn't flourished since the show ended. Fact 3. Scheduled against the nanny, ABC essentially sealed the fate of Thea before it ever had a fighting chance by making one of the most questionable scheduling decisions in television history. The network placed the show in what many considered a death slot, forcing it to lead off an unproven Wednesday night lineup at 8 o'clock, which meant it aired directly opposite one of the hottest new sitcoms on television at the time. CBS had launched The Nanny, starring Fran Drescher, just 2 months earlier in November of 1993, and the show had already become a massive hit, with audiences who couldn't get enough of Drescher's distinctive voice, comedic timing, and the show's fish-out-of-water premise about a cosmetic saleswoman who becomes a nanny for a wealthy Broadway producer's family. By the time Thea settled into its Wednesday time slot, The Nanny was dominating the ratings and pulling in viewers by the millions, creating an almost impossible challenge for any competing show to overcome. Television viewers in the early 1990s typically didn't have the luxury of recording shows or streaming them later, which meant they had to make a choice between watching Thea or The Nanny in real time, and the vast majority chose Fran Drescher's established hit over the newcomer. Many television critics and fans looking back at this era have pointed to this scheduling conflict as one of the primary reasons Thea never managed to maintain the strong ratings it initially earned during its premiere, with some calling it a show that truly got away because it deserved better treatment from the network. ABC's decision to pit a groundbreaking new sitcom starring an African-American female comedian against an already proven ratings juggernaut demonstrated either remarkably poor judgment or a lack of faith in the show's potential to succeed. Fact 4. Jason Weaver's $2 million gamble. While Jason Weaver was filming Thea and playing the scheming middle child Jerome, he received an offer from Disney that would have made most teenagers and their families jump at the chance without hesitation. The entertainment giant wanted him to provide the singing voice for young Simba in their upcoming animated film, The Lion King, and they offered him a flat payment of $2 million for the work, which was an absolutely massive sum of money for a 14-year-old actor from a middle-class family in Chicago during the early 1990s. Weaver himself was thrilled about the opportunity and the enormous paycheck, but his mother, Marilyn Haywood, had serious doubts about accepting the deal as it was presented. And after the initial excitement wore off, she started asking Disney executives some very pointed questions about the long-term implications of taking a one-time payment. She specifically wanted to know if that $2 million was truly all her son would ever receive for the remainder of his life, regardless of how successful the movie became or how many times Disney re-released it in the future. When the executives confirmed that the offer was indeed a single payment with no additional compensation down the road, Weaver's mother made the bold decision to turn down the $2 million and instead negotiated a deal where Jason would receive $100,000 up front, plus a percentage of the royalties from the film's soundtrack sales and any future releases. Her reasoning was based on Disney's well-known history of re-releasing their animated classics every few years, and she correctly predicted that The Lion King would generate revenue for decades to come. Over the past 30 years, Weaver has earned substantially more than that original $2 million offer through his royalty payments, and he has repeatedly credited his mother for making what turned out to be one of the smartest business decisions of his entire career. Fact 5. 3 future Moesha co-stars. What makes Thea even more interesting in television history is the bizarre coincidence that 3 of its cast members would go on to work together again on not just one, but 2 different hit sitcoms, creating an unexpected connection that nobody could have predicted when the show was filming. Brandy Norwood played Denisha, one of Thea's 4 children, while comedian Yvette Wilson had a recurring role as Lynette, Thea's sister, who frequently appeared throughout the series. Additionally, young actress Countess Vaughn made a guest appearance on Thea in 1994, playing a character named Charlene in one episode before the show was canceled. Just 2 years later, in 1996, Brandy landed the starring role in the UPN sitcom Moesha, playing a teenage girl navigating life in Los Angeles with her family and friends, and the show became a massive success that ran for 6 seasons. Yvette Wilson joined the cast of Moesha as Andell Wilkerson, the owner of a local restaurant and hangout spot called The Den, which became a central location for many of the show's storylines and where the teenage characters would gather between scenes. Countess Vaughn was cast as Kim Parker, Moesha's best friend, and her comedic performance was so popular with audiences that she earned an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a comedy series in 1998. The connection between Thea and Moesha didn't end there, because in 1999, both Countess Vaughn and Yvette Wilson left Moesha to star in the spin-off series The The Parkers, where Vaughn played the lead role and Wilson continued playing Andell Wilkerson, now as the best friend of Vaughn's character's mother. This meant that all three women who had worked together on the short-lived Thea ended up reuniting and building successful careers together across two different hit shows that lasted a combined 10 seasons. Fact 6. Theme naming with one exception. One of the strangest and most unexplained details about Thea involves the naming pattern of the 4 children in the Terrell family, which follows a clear and meaningful theme for 3 of the kids but completely abandons it for the 4th without any explanation ever given during the show's run. The character of Thea was a widow whose late husband was named Jarvis, and in what appears to be a loving tribute to their father's memory, all 3 of the sons in the family were given names that start with the letter J. The oldest son was named Jarvis Jr., clearly carrying on his father's exact name as many families do with their firstborn male children. The middle son was named Jerome, and the youngest son was named James, maintaining the J naming pattern across all 3 boys in a way that suggested this was an intentional decision made by the parents to honor the family patriarch. However, when it comes to the only daughter in the family, the pattern completely falls apart in a way that has never been addressed or explained by the show's creators or writers. The daughter's name is Danisha, which not only doesn't start with the letter J, but also doesn't seem to follow any alternative pattern or have any obvious connection to the father's name or the theme established with her brothers. This odd naming choice becomes even more puzzling because the show never acknowledged the discrepancy or provided any backstory about why Danisha was the exception to the rule, such as whether she might have been named after a beloved grandmother or family friend, or if there was some other meaningful reason for breaking the pattern. Television fans and critics who have discussed Thea over the years have pointed out this quirk as one of those bizarre little details that probably came down to the writers simply liking the name Danisha for Brandy's character without thinking through the implications for the family's naming theme. Fact 7. Thea's wrestling career as Mama Benjamin. 12 years after Thea was canceled, Thea Vidale made one of the most unexpected career moves imaginable by joining World Wrestling Entertainment and appearing on WWE Raw as a character that became both beloved and ridiculous in equal measure. In January of 2006, Vidale debuted as Mama Benjamin, playing the fictional mother of professional wrestler Shelton Benjamin, who had been struggling with a losing streak and needed something to turn his fortunes around. Her first appearance on the January 2nd episode of Raw showed her surprising Shelton backstage and yelling at him that he wasn't acting the way Benjamins were supposed to act, establishing her as a tough, no-nonsense mother figure who wouldn't tolerate her son's poor performance. Over the following weeks, Mama Benjamin became involved in increasingly outrageous storylines, challenging other wrestlers to matches on her son's behalf, and getting into confrontations that led to some truly bizarre moments in WWE history. The peak of her storyline came on February 6, 2006, when she attempted to interfere in Shelton's match against The Big Show, a massive wrestler who stood over 7 feet tall, and The Big Show responded by turning toward her and screaming directly in her face, which caused Mama Benjamin to collapse on the ground in what appeared to be a heart attack. WWE's official website later announced that she had suffered from a heart arrhythmia and was recovering at home. But when she returned to Raw the following week, she came back in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank attached, which she and Shelton then began using as a weapon during matches. The most memorable moment of the entire storyline happened on February 20th, when Mama Benjamin faked another heart attack during Shelton's match against Ric Flair for the Intercontinental Championship, and while the referee was distracted checking on her, Shelton grabbed the oxygen tank and hit Flair with it to win the title. Fact 8. Brandy's mother allegedly pulled her from the show. The behind-the-scenes drama between Thea Vidale and Brandy Norwood became so intense that it may have directly contributed to the show's ultimate demise, with reports suggesting that Brandy's mother and manager, Sonia Norwood, made the decision to remove her daughter from Thea entirely before the series concluded its short run. According to multiple sources who have discussed the situation over the years, Sonia Norwood became increasingly concerned about the working environment on set and the way her teenage daughter was being treated by Vidal, who was the star of the show and held considerable power over how production proceeded on a daily basis. The tensions between Vidal and the Norwood family had escalated to such a degree that continuing to work together seemed impossible. And with Brandy's music career beginning to show real promise, Sonia reportedly decided that it was time to prioritize her daughter's recording opportunities over remaining on a sitcom where she wasn't happy or welcome. Some industry observers and fans of the show have speculated that Brandy's departure, whether it was a formal exit or simply a decision to not continue if the show had been renewed, played a significant role in ABC's decision to cancel Thea after only 19 episodes, since Brandy was one of the main cast members and her character Denisha was integral to many of the show's storylines. In the years following the cancellation, Thea Vidal has made comments suggesting that she blamed Brandy for the show's failure, while others have argued that the show's poor ratings and scheduling problems were the real culprits and that the behind-the-scenes conflict was merely a symptom of a production that was already struggling. What remains undisputed is that removing Brandy from the equation, whether by her mother's choice or through mutual agreement with producers, freed her up to focus entirely on recording her debut album, which was released in 1994 and went on to sell millions of copies. Fact 9, rated 43rd out of 75 shows. The trajectory of Thea in the Nielsen ratings tells a devastating story of a show that began with genuine promise but suffered one of the most dramatic declines of the 1993 to 1994 television season. When the series premiered in September of 1993, it attracted strong viewership numbers that suggested ABC might have a hit on their hands, with audiences tuning in to see this groundbreaking sitcom starring an African-American female comedian in her own named series. However, as the weeks progressed and the show settled into its regular time slot, the ratings began to drop steadily and significantly, hemorrhaging viewers at an alarming rate that concerned both the network executives and the show's producers. By the time the season ended in February of 1994, after only 19 episodes had aired, Thea had plummeted all the way down to 43rd place in the overall Nielsen rankings, finishing the season ranked near 50th out of approximately 75 shows that were being tracked in the weekly ratings. To put this decline into perspective, the show went from being a potential breakout success to landing firmly in the bottom half of all primetime television programs in a matter of just a few months, which represented a catastrophic failure by network television standards where advertisers and executives make decisions based largely on these ranking numbers. The steep drop in ratings meant that Thea was performing worse than the majority of shows on television during that season, making it nearly impossible for ABC to justify keeping it on the air despite its historic significance and the critical praise it had received from some reviewers. This dramatic fall from grace has led many television historians and fans to debate whether the show might have survived with better scheduling, less behind-the-scenes drama, or perhaps a stronger promotional push from the network during those crucial early weeks when ratings were beginning their downward slide. Fact 10. The Sika catchphrase. One of the most memorable aspects of Thea was the simple but effective catchphrase that Thea Vidal's character used throughout the series, which became so closely associated with the show that fans and critics still remember it decades later, despite the sitcom's brief run. Thea Terrell would frequently end conversations or exit scenes by delivering a casual and dismissive "see ya" that perfectly captured her no-nonsense personality and straightforward approach to dealing with people and situations in her busy life. The catchphrase wasn't just a throwaway line, but became an integral part of how the character communicated, serving as her signature method of wrapping up interactions. Whether she was leaving for work, ending an argument with one of her children, or simply moving on to the next task in her overwhelming daily schedule of juggling 2 jobs and raising 4 kids as a single mother. What makes this catchphrase particularly interesting is that the show's writers recognized its popularity and effectiveness early on, deciding to have some fun with it by incorporating it into the storylines in creative ways that acknowledged how distinctive it had become. In the 4th episode of the series, the writers gave the catchphrase to Jarvis, Thea's oldest son, played by Adam Jeffries, who borrowed his mother's signature line and used it himself in a moment that served as both a comedic callback and a way of showing how children often pick up their parents' mannerisms and speech patterns without even realizing it. This kind of self-aware humor, where a show acknowledges its own recurring elements and plays with them in new contexts, was relatively uncommon in early 1990s sitcoms and showed that the writers were willing to experiment with the format even during the show's short time on the air. The "See ya" catchphrase has endured in the memories of fans who watched Thea during its original run, and it remains one of the few elements of the show that people specifically recall when discussing the series years later. Fact 11. Brandy's television debut before Brandy Norwood became one of the most successful R&B singers of the 1990s, and a household name with her own hit sitcom. She was a 14-year-old girl from Mississippi who was just starting to navigate the entertainment industry when she landed the role of Donisha on Thea. This was Brandy's first major television role, marking the beginning of what would become a remarkable career spanning music, television, film, and Broadway, though at the time she was cast, she was relatively unknown to audiences and had only appeared in small parts on other shows. Playing Donisha Terrell, the only daughter in a family of 4 children, gave Brandy the opportunity to develop her acting skills on a network sitcom and gain experience working with a professional cast and crew, even though the challenging dynamics on set made it a difficult learning environment for someone so young and inexperienced. The exposure from Thea, despite the show's brief run and the conflicts happening behind the scenes, helped establish Brandy's presence in Hollywood and demonstrated that she had the talent and screen presence to carry larger roles in the future. Just 1 year after Thea was canceled, Brandy released her self-titled debut album in 1994, which went on to sell millions of copies worldwide and produced hit singles that dominated radio stations and music charts throughout the mid-90s. The success of her music career, combined with the television experience she gained from Thea, positioned her perfectly to land the starring role in Moesha when it premiered in 1996, a show that would run for 6 seasons and make her one of the most recognizable young stars in America. Looking back at Brandy's extraordinary career trajectory, which includes Grammy Awards, platinum albums, and iconic television roles, it's clear that Thea served as the crucial launching pad that introduced her to audiences and gave her the foundation she needed to build everything that came afterward. Fact 12. Bet kept it alive. While ABC may have given up on Thea after only 6 months and 19 episodes, the show found an unexpected second life that allowed it to reach audiences who never had the chance to see it during its original network run. Black Entertainment Television, better known as BET, acquired the rights to air reruns of Thea shortly after ABC canceled the series in February of 1994, and the cable network began broadcasting episodes later that same year as part of their programming lineup. What's remarkable about this arrangement is that BET continued to air these reruns for 4 full years, from 1994 all the way through 1998, which meant the show actually had a longer life in syndication on cable television than it ever had during its brief original run on a major broadcast network. This extended rerun period gave Thea the opportunity to find and build an audience that might have missed it the first time around, particularly viewers who specifically tuned in to BET for programming that featured African American casts and storylines that reflected their experiences and communities. The 4-year syndication run also meant that fans who had watched and enjoyed the show during its original ABC broadcasts could continue to revisit episodes and introduce the series to friends and family members who hadn't discovered it yet, creating a kind of cult following that persisted well beyond the show's cancellation. BET's decision to keep Thea in rotation for such an extended period demonstrated that there was indeed an audience for the show, and it raises interesting questions about whether the sitcom might have succeeded if it had originally aired on a cable network targeted toward Black viewers, rather than trying to compete in the much more crowded and competitive landscape of primetime network television. The show eventually returned to BET again later on, showing that the network recognized its value as programming even years after its production had ended. Fact 13. Shelton Benjamin refused his real mother. when WWE owner Vince McMahon first approached wrestler Shelton Benjamin about creating a storyline involving his mother, he actually offered to have Shelton's real-life mother appear on the show and play herself, which would have added an authentic element to the character that audiences might have found appealing. However, Shelton immediately and emphatically turned down this suggestion, responding with what he later described as an absolutely not. And his reasoning reveals just how rough and unpredictable the WWE locker room environment was during the mid-2000s. Shelton explained in interviews years later that he was genuinely worried about exposing his real mother to the kind of behavior and comments that were common backstage at WWE events, where wrestlers were known for ribbing each other, making inappropriate jokes, and pushing boundaries in ways that might cross the line from harmless teasing into genuine disrespect. He specifically mentioned that he was concerned about certain wrestlers who had reputations for being problematic, including Randy Orton, who Shelton referred to as Old Randy and described as someone who was a problem during that era of WWE, though he clarified that Orton wasn't the only person he was worried about. The wrestler made it clear that if anyone had said something out of line to his actual mother or treated her with disrespect, he would have been forced to respond physically to defend her honor, which would have resulted in fights with his fellow wrestlers and almost certainly would have led to him being fired from the company. Shelton stated plainly that bringing his real mother into that environment would have given him a really short career because he wouldn't have been able to control his reaction if someone crossed that line, which is why hiring actress and comedian Thea Vidal to play the fictional Mama Benjamin was the only viable option for the storyline. Fact 14. People's Choice Nomination. Despite failure. In one of the most bizarre contradictions in television history, Thea Vidal received a nomination for a People's Choice Award in the category of Favorite Female in a new series, even as Thea was suffering from declining ratings and heading toward inevitable cancellation. The People's Choice Awards, which are determined by votes from the general public rather than by critics or industry professionals, are typically given to shows and performers who have achieved significant popularity and captured the attention of large audiences across the country. What makes Vidal's nomination so unusual is that it came during a season when the show was performing poorly in the Nielsen ratings, dropping from its initially strong premiere numbers all the way down to 43rd place out of 75 shows by the time the season ended. This suggests that while Thea may not have been attracting massive viewership numbers that would satisfy network executives and advertisers, there was nevertheless a dedicated group of fans who connected with Vidal's performance and appreciated what she was bringing to television as the first African-American female comedian to star in a sitcom named after her. The nomination served as recognition of the historic significance of Vidal's role and the groundbreaking nature of the show itself, even though those factors weren't enough to save the series from cancellation or convince enough viewers to tune in each week to keep it on the air. It's worth noting that Vidal didn't win the award, which went to another actress that year, but the fact that she was nominated at all speaks to the impact she made during the show's brief run and the impression she left on at least a portion of the viewing audience who took the time to vote for her. The nomination remains a testament to how a show can be both a commercial failure and a culturally significant achievement at the same time. Fact 15. The Yvette Wilson Connection. The story of Thea took on a tragic dimension years after the show ended when Yvette Wilson, the talented comedian and actress who played Thea's sister Lynette throughout the series, passed away on June 14, 2012, after a long and difficult battle with cervical cancer that had spread throughout her body. Wilson was only 48 years old at the time of her death, cutting short a career that had shown tremendous promise and had brought joy to audiences across multiple successful television shows during the 1990s and early 2000s. What makes Wilson's connection to Thea particularly poignant is that she managed to maintain a professional working relationship with Brandy Norwood despite all the tensions and conflicts that plagued the set during the show's production. And the two actresses would go on to work together again when Wilson joined the cast of Moesha in 1996, playing the beloved character Andell Wilkerson, who owned The Den, a restaurant and hangout spot that became central to the show's setting. Wilson's ability to navigate the difficult dynamics on Thea and then successfully collaborate with Brandy again on Moesha speaks to her professionalism and her talent for separating personal conflicts from the work itself, allowing her to build a successful television career that spanned more than 2 decades. In the months leading up to her death, Wilson faced severe financial difficulties due to mounting medical bills from her cancer treatment, and a close friend set up a fundraising website to help cover her expenses and transportation costs for medical appointments. Her former co-star from Moesha, Shar Jackson, announced Wilson's passing on Twitter, thanking fans for their prayers and expressing the profound loss felt by everyone who had worked with her over the years and appreciated her humor, talent, and warm personality, both on screen and off. Both on screen and off. Both on screen and off. Both on screen and off.